Hello, dear viewers. Good morning, maybe good afternoon, or even maybe good evening. That would depend when you watch this recording. But we are very glad to have you once again in the Creative Society studio for this new international discussion. Together, my co-host, Tali, and we will be joining with one guest with who we're going to deep dive a little bit more on the topic that has been brought to the conference that happened on the 12th of November. Our survival is in unity. So this conference, a 12 hours conference, was really here to bring the truth back to people about the current situation, the current global crisis that we can experience, but not only, and most especially about the solution. How do we cope all together with that solution? How do we move forward, and how we create our beautiful future? Before going more into details into this discussion, I would actually to introduce our guest. So with us today, we have Sonja-Sophie from the US, who is concerned world citizen and Wholistic Life Coach. And I would like to say, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonja, for being here with us today. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you find out about the conference and Creative Society?
Yes, thank you for having me here. I will keep it short. I call myself a concerned world citizen because I have lived in several countries. I was born in former East Germany, so I went through that political system and the change out. Then lived in West Germany for a little while. Then I lived in the United States and also in Italy for 3 years, and currently living in the United States. So I've been able to spend time with people from different cultures for longer than just a visit, and found out that we are all the same. Humans are humans, and we are beautiful beings. And so I'm a concerned world citizen because I know that we all need to come together, and our survival is in unity, and we can achieve it because we are all the same on a very, very deep level. And how I found the Creative Society was just very coincidental. Just before the forum on November 12th, I actually found it through an Instagram post. Someone had made the effort to post something on Instagram that interested me, and I clicked on it, and now I'm here talking to you guys, and I am so happy that I found you guys, the group, the people that are working on this new society, because that's what I've always been dreaming of ever since I was little. So thanks for having me here.
Great, thank you, Sonja. And I mean, your story is unique, but also very similar to many people joining the Creative Society. And it's really encouraging to see that, as you mentioned, people have put efforts into posting something on Instagram, but just not on Instagram. That can be on TikTok, on Facebook. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later on this big wave that is going on since the forum onto spreading that information about the forum. And make sure that as many people are aware about the truth that has been voiced. Talking about the forum, we actually wanted to ask you as a first question, what was out of those 12 hours that you mentioned you watched, what was the topic or the topics that really touched you the most, the one that reflects something special for you and you would like to describe a little bit more?
Yes. Sorry. So coincidentally, I joined into the forum at the end of the day, and I watched the beginning the next day. But the part where I joined in, they were talking about free energy. And the whole energy bit is something that in my life had played a role. When we lived in California, my husband at the time, German software engineer, he built a solar system for us because we wanted to live greener. So he built a solar system that He did the software, hardware, everything, where our house would be off the grid when the sun was shining, which happens a lot in California. And then only when there wasn't enough energy, the system would switch over. So he would take it off the grid and then on the grid. And at the same time, we were also doing a lot of recycling, and we were trying to grow tomatoes in the backyard. That was hard in California because it's hot. So we were doing all of these things because we were concerned about the state of the world, and we wanted to be good citizens, and we wanted to do our part. And through the few years that we were working on all of this and trying to send messages to our friends, letting them know what we're doing, why we're doing this, and connecting with other people who were working on these same issues, it became clear at some point that these efforts that we were putting in were not really doing much in the grand scheme of things. Because if a few people scale back and they really watch their carbon footprint and they really try to recycle, it's again gets lost in the system. And if you separate your trash, but then when it gets picked up, it all goes back to the same place and there isn't anyone there to actually recycle it, it becomes really disheartening, if not depressive, at some point. So we did eventually stop with some of those efforts, and that didn't feel good, because we still wanted to have a beautiful planet and a beautiful life for not only ourselves, our children, but for everyone, really, and just for the sake of the planet. It's a beautiful planet, and we have not honored it. So I was jumping into the forum exactly where they were discussing the fuel-free generators. And that was super interesting to me, because we also were, looking into tech a lot, like how can tech benefit and what are the drawbacks to technology. And based on having free energy, if you really think about it, every other problem that we are facing right now as humans can be fixed and addressed as soon as we have this free technology. And I really loved how in the forum they pointed out that the only way that we can safely distribute free energy generators is by changing the society, because it depends on the intention of those in power, how your society is going to play out, how everyone is going to feel. If the people in power's intention is to further themselves and to become even more powerful, then that's what's going to happen when free energy comes available. So we cannot let that happen as citizens.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not alone with similar story. I know many people who invested highly into green energy, and then it was a rude awakening when they see that nothing changed. And what else can you do? So people getting frustrated. People think that people keep doing it for sake of doing, because nobody is offering the better solution. So when they come across our conference, they're like, oh, wow. So there is a way out. It's just not financially beneficial in the current system. It's just that nobody talks about it, because nobody can make money on it. So when creative society says, well, let's put human life first, not the money, not the profit, it might sound like a fresh idea, but it's the essence of every culture, every country, every constitution around this world. So this should be so natural for all the people to unite around this one basic human value. And well, for those who like many people around the globe still think that green energy is doing something for the environment, for all of those, we have a short video clip from this conference, and maybe our technical team could show it to us right now, and we can continue discussion afterwards. Please, let's watch it together.
Energy is the basis of our life. Energy is food, water, sanitation, communication, heat, and mobility. Energy is the basis for all our production. The development of energy leads society towards technological progress. Without energy, our society cannot exist. But what is going on today? We are already experiencing an energy crisis.
It is really scary because as soon as I go out, now after 2 hours I'll come in and it's already £2 and you're thinking, I'm not cooking, I'm not doing anything.
And how does that make you feel?
It makes you really anxious.
So you've really got down to thinking in detail about every electrical appliance you've got.
Yeah.
Whether you can switch
which one
them
works
off.
more, which one doesn't.
Normally, if we have like every year like 10% extra cost, it's not a problem. But it's now like 10 times more than 2 years ago. It's crazy. In this way, if nobody can survive. No company, no people with a household, nobody.
In many countries in Europe, in America, and Canada, electricity prices have risen by 30 to 50% and led to a spike in the prices for all goods. People are no longer able to pay their energy bills. To date, even in civilized Europe, people are stocking up on firewood. In some countries, even private clinics have to be closed. In Europe, farmers are shutting down winter production of vegetables and greens because it is too expensive to maintain the necessary conditions in greenhouses. Even storing crops has become unprofitable because of higher energy prices. Farmers are forced to destroy their crops. This means that we will not see our usual vegetables, fruits, and greens on store shelves this winter.
All the prices are going up more and more. Today we have to pay 300% more for fertilizers and fuel than a year ago.
Suppose we stop working, then everything stops altogether. What do we have to do then? Just work losing our money and constantly asking for help and money to keep working. It's a vicious circle.
Why don't you turn on the air conditioner at home?
I can't afford the electricity bills. The city folks get salaries. We farmers don't.
The production of meat and dairy products is totally dependent on electricity. Rising prices for this resource create a spike in the prices for meat and dairy products and can create a shortage of these products in stores. It is not only producers of agricultural products who suffer. Even hospitals are at risk of being left without power. For example, the hospital in Naples received an €11 million electricity bill. Factories have to reduce production or shut down completely. To date, many countries are already preparing for reduced electricity consumption. Shutdowns and partial shutdowns of production facilities and businesses are being planned. This, in turn, will lead to higher prices and shortages of products and other goods all over the world. Imagine coming to the store tomorrow and seeing half-empty shelves. Moreover, you just won't be able to afford what's left on the shelves. Perhaps this is one of the reasons for the famine that we are promised from the high tribunes. So, why are electricity prices rising all the time? Governments are making huge investments in energy development. In 2022, this amounted to $710 billion. This year, energy funding amounted to $2.5 trillion. Of that, almost $1.5 trillion went to green energy development. The net income of the world's oil and gas producers has doubled in 2022 to more than $4 trillion. Money from our taxes goes to the development of the energy industry. But every day, energy is becoming more expensive and unaffordable for us. The reason is that energy today is a business like any other, and people just make money on it. Electricity is a commodity. It is sold and bought on the energy market. Any company, private or state-owned, has the goal of making as much profit as possible. One and the same megawatt an hour can be resold several times, and each time the price will increase. The more times that the megawatt an hour of energy is sold on the market, the more expensive the electricity will ultimately be for us. This is what creates such an increase in electricity prices for people and factories. We pay for the profits of the energy industry enterprises in every bill, and on top of that, taxes on the development of green energy are added to our energy bills. Green energy also has a significant impact on price growth. Its tariff is the most expensive, but the rules of the energy market oblige us to buy green energy in full. We are being persuaded that the transition to green energy will reduce CO2 emissions and save the world. Instead, we are no better off than before. We have spent trillions of dollars on free solar and wind power, while electricity prices have skyrocketed. We are shutting down nuclear power plants, thermal power plants, and are trying to switch to green energy. But even if we cover the entire surface of the planet with solar panels and wind turbines, the energy they will produce won't be enough. Has it only now dawned upon us that the sun doesn't shine at night and the wind doesn't blow all the time? In such conditions, power outages are unavoidable. That's why we can't give up conventional power plants. But for some reason, we have imposed an additional tax on all hydrocarbon energy, and we are paying 3 times the price for it. In fact, we haven't switched to green energy. We have just added an unnecessary and unreliable source and only increased the costs in our bills. So it turns out that we ourselves pay for the creation of inefficient and expensive energy. The absurdity is that in our world, energy is a commodity. It belongs to a few and is a tool of power, political influence, and manipulation of people. In a normal human society, resources must belong to all people, and energy must be free and available anywhere in the world. When we come home in the evening, each of us wants to turn on the light, air conditioning, take a hot shower, watch TV, charge the phone, and make dinner. We are used to taking it for granted. But even now, many of us can't afford it. And these are not temporary difficulties. We are destroying the existing stable system of energy supply. And instead of waking up and seeing the dire consequences of what we have come to, we are told to simply consume less energy, to give up traveling, home comforts, and even food. Wouldn't it be easier for us to move straight into a cave, or better yet, straight into a grave, so as not to emit extra CO2, which, by the way, has nothing to do with climate change. Extreme climatic conditions will worsen. Our civilization simply will not survive without reliable energy sources during this period. This year's record-breaking droughts, floods, tornadoes, and extreme temperatures are just the beginning of climate disasters, and we are already feeling the effects of power plant shutdowns and lack of energy. In times of climate change, we rely on weather-dependent energy sources despite the fact that they are the most vulnerable to climate change. Within just an instant, there could be a total collapse of the energy system. De-energized cities will be left without water, food, light, transport, and communications. It is obvious that further transition to green energy would be a fatal mistake of humankind. At a time of climatic disasters, it is vital that we create reliable energy sources that are powerful and independent of weather conditions. The ability of our society to survive is inextricably linked to a stable energy supply. But as long as this vital field is privately owned and one can make money out of it, it is unable to serve us, people. Stable energy sources already exist today, but they can only be implemented if we choose the creation.
That is a quite eye-opening videos, I would say. A lot of different aspects of the energy crisis has been brought, but I would like to really raise that small sentence that I heard from the video, that if you look at the current situation, we're putting all our efforts, all our fundings and technology to discover and to implement more green energy that are actually the more affected by the current climate that is changing. More and more people do accept and understand that there is a climate changing situation. Either they understand the real cause or they think it's maybe CO2, but they do see that there is more and more cataclysm. And yet they're still okay having so much money, their own tax being pumped into this green energy technology that is just going to collapse after one tornado and so. And it's really mind-boggling the way that people are still doing things and continuing in that vein, rather than just kind of opening up their eyes and realizing, okay, we just need to turn around and do something different. I wanted to get your thoughts on that video. Sonja, you've been mentioning some of those topics about energy that we mentioned just before. What can you add after this video?
Yeah, so I mean, if that video doesn't get you going, I don't know what will. But what we see here is that what's been happening so far is that we've been told a story by those who stand to make massive amounts of profits from the things that are going on right now. And the story is that in order for us to be good humans and save our planet, these are the things that we have to do. And obviously, young children who are worried about their future and then getting older at the same time, we don't have any other solution and we don't understand fully the problem. And so in wanting to be good citizens, we go ahead and we perpetuate the story that's being told to us. And what I've found is that when that happens, sometimes it's hard for people to admit that I was lied to. I didn't know the truth. And it's hard to admit that I was also perpetuating a story. And sometimes people get stuck in that and they become defensive. So instead of looking at new information and looking at other potential solutions, they want to kind of, protect their own mind. It's the cognitive dissonance problem, but that's kind of what we're up against, is people that really wanted to do good things, finding out that, wow, I've been contributing to the problem instead of really contributing to the solution. What's important now is to get over that and say, wait a minute, I am better than that. I didn't deserve to be lied to. I only believed what I was told because I have good intentions. And now let me redirect my good intentions toward something that really is going to be a solution after I'm looking at the whole of the problem. And the video shows so well the complexity of the problem. And you guys at Creative Society have also shown a different video that shows some of the actual solution. And Tesla, even back, many, many years ago, had the solution by the fingertips, I guess, which is free energy that does not pollute the environment to any degree. And why should we, now that we can do all these things, we can put rockets in space, all of these great things we can do, why should we not be able to finally create free energy that is zero pollutant? And so at this point, we need to get everyone together and say, look, that's what we want. We don't want more windmills. We don't want more, water, those water...
hydroelectric.
The hydroelectric plants that they have in the ocean. All of these create more issues for the environment. Birds are dying. Water is getting wound up in ways where then coral reefs are affected, all those kind of things. We know the issues with the solar panels now. They have to be produced. They need resources, all of that. And we can get rid of all of those problems when we get to the free energy that Creative Society says can be available to everyone. And the most important thing is to change the political structure before we can do that. So everyone who has so far been a supporter of green energy needs to actually be a supporter of Creative Society, because that will be the actual solution. And how fantastic is that?
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely agree with you on all the points. And I also think that video is actually one of my favorite ones, where it shows the FFGs, fuel-free generators. Mm-hmm. It shows that they have been around for over 100 years. Mm-hmm. And the primary reason why they have not been implemented in our society is not the technological issue. The technology is not a problem. It's how our society is structured. It is the fact that so many people depend on their making money in this industry. And then how do we transition also safely without creating any crisis economically, without leaving millions of people out of jobs, without creating what is called technological unemployment? This is the thing that's really, really important as well. And, it's the solution that Creative Society is offering. It's not just a solution in the field of green energy, right? That's just one small part. Another big part, and the majority of it, is about prioritizing human life over profit. Yes, we have this technology. We know that implemented it will leave people out of jobs. So we have to make sure that we provide enough resources for these people to survive without being employed, if the technology is beneficial for all of the people. And with this approach, if we approach the similar way, the healthcare, education, the even police enforcement, we know from the conferences that the problem is not to eliminate crime. The problem, what to do with all these people who are employed in fighting crime and only, in any other field, interested in endless fighting of the problem, but never solving the problem, because solving the problems means you're not needed anymore. So you're not going to get paid, and that's where the crisis starts. But green energy, I think, is really crucial, because all our focus, all our attention has been strictly pointed at this one so-called solution, which absolutely failed. And I don't know, maybe you were lucky and you got out of California before this summer started, but we were advised not to charge our electric vehicles. Yes, we were advised to preheat our homes before pre-cool, because it was the heat wave. So we had to pre-cool our homes before 4 p.m. while the sun is still up and those solar panels working, and do not use it after 4 p.m. So people, 110 degrees, it's like 45 degrees Celsius. They were just sitting outdoors, and they couldn't use ACs at night. It was like 11 p.m. at night. Yeah, so really, we only seen the first consequences of destruction of our power grids right now. And for those people who are not familiar with Creative Society and green energy, what would be your advice? Where to start with,
Where to start? Well, you can start with watching the 12 hours. I would suggest start with the last 3, because they really have the solutions. I think if you start with the first 3 hours, you might get a little depressed. But the last 3 hours really showcase the solutions that Creative Society can bring. And in that instance, it doesn't really matter what your problem is, because your problem will be solved. Including the green energy crisis. Now, do we need to keep CO2 to a certain level to be able to breathe as human beings? Absolutely. So, but this is a separate problem. It's not causing climate change. So we need different solutions for climate change. We need solutions for healthcare. As long as you can make a profit, really in any industry, the industry is going to become corrupted, especially if there are huge industries like energy, healthcare, food, and we've seen that. It's nothing new. So far, many of us have been wondering, what can I do about it? And we have felt that maybe there isn't anything that we can do that would actually make an impact. And by joining the Creative Society, and when I say joining, you're not joining a club, you're just joining in an idea that you want to see a world in which these particular issues are being resolved for you. And they will be resolved through the use of technology that's going to be greater than what we are used to now. And that is something that people sometimes can't imagine. And sometimes people are being made afraid of new technologies. And that is also a strategy that's being used to keep us from using same technologies to create what we want, while others are using those technologies to create the society they want. which is clearly not in favor of everyone, but which is continuously in favor of the ones who are in power now. And what we have to realize is that we cannot, in this case, we have to fight fire with fire, so to speak. We cannot go back and, move back into caves, as was suggested in the video, which some people are, in favor of, saying, oh, yes, use less technology, go back to the old ways of doing things because they are better. Well, they're not better for 8 billion people planet. They won't work. And it's not necessary to do that. It's totally possible to use all the technology that's available and make this planet even better than we have ever been able to imagine so far. But we all have to agree on this idea, and we have to stop being afraid of new technologies. Technologies that are now not beneficial to the human body can be changed and developed into being beneficial to the human body. So just because there's a technology out there today that may be disturbing to the human energy field doesn't mean that that cannot be corrected, fixed, and completely upgraded if we change society so that it's actually beneficial to have those technologies. Right now, it's beneficial to have technologies that keep people sick and keep people dependent. And once we change the political structure, then put life as the biggest human value, we can take care of all these issues. And it's going to be close to a utopia. We will still have our interpersonal relational issues that we have to deal with on our personal level, but we won't have to worry about our health, our livelihood. One of the reasons why people don't want to change over is, for instance, in West Virginia, I have done some research, just moved to Virginia here recently, and mining was a big thing. So why do people want to stay miners? Right? They've been a miner, their pa has been a miner, their grandpa has been a miner. Why do they want to be a miner? Not because it's a fantastic job that leaves you healthy and happy. It's because they don't know what else to do and how else to pay for food for their families. The Creative Society complete package of solutions will take care of that. And if you ask in a miner, well, would you rather continue to be a miner and make sure this coal mine stays open? Or would you rather just have, everything that you need, free food, free education for your kids, free healthcare, and free time to be creative and go explore the world? I don't know how many miners would continue to want to work in the coal mine. So that's one of the things that we have to point out to people when they are afraid of losing their livelihood by a job being replaced by new technology.
That's very true. You mentioned a lot of very great points, and it's almost if the current state of society, it's like if society has been kidnapped, and we are currently having this Stockholm syndrome, and then we just try to justify the situation in which we are as much as we can, and it sounds completely irrational. The same way that you explain it, that explaining to people how they could live better, they will still remain into this situation that they are right now. And really, consumer format of society, it's something that we really need to understand what are the consequences of this format are on us. As of today, everybody would say that this format of society is just the only thing that they ever knew, that they are in it, and they just don't know anything else. And that's this idea that we need to change and make sure that they understand that the creative society, it's not a revolution. We're not trying to revolutionize the consumer format of society to upgrade it. We're trying to develop something completely different on the side that will work almost to the opposite. If you think about the consumer format of society, money or power is the highest value. And then is the most valuable thing that you can think of. But then if money as power is valuable, then all means to get it is almost acceptable. And it shouldn't be the case, because all those means, or many of those means, would be against the human being. Let's think about a society where human life is the highest value, where if one life is valuable, then all people's life is valuable. That's really this idea that should be put in practice. my question to you, and because you watched the conference and you get that idea, you've been really embedded into this idea of consumer form of society. I mean, you've been traveling the world in different countries, so you even saw this kind of consumer form of society from a US perspective, from a European perspective, with some differences, but overall the same thing. What was for you the spark that made you be able to recognize that format and being able to also recognize what should be the solution, the creative society? We've been talking right before about some people, the way we explain the creative society. It's a little bit sometimes difficult for people to really understand that new concept. Can you tell us a little bit how did you went through this, and what was once again this spark or this click that helped you to get that idea?
Yes, for myself, I was born in former East Germany. So I was born into a whole different society than I am living in right now. And at that time, one of the things that growing up, I had an ideal of what socialism, communism is. So as a child, what I was told about it is, hey, we're sharing everything, everyone is taken care of, and and we are basically a community that sticks together. And that was happening to a degree because apparently we had to stick together because things weren't available. But as a young child, I wasn't really aware of how hard it was for the parents. But what I loved and what I still discuss with my friends to this day when I go back to visit is the camaraderie that we had in our group with the children, and that everyone was being more together. There was not that sense of competition and I need to be better than my neighbor and I need to beat out my neighbor at any point where I can. So when I was 19, I came to the United States and I saw a different world, and it was very disturbing to me. On one hand, it was great. There was opportunity. Certain things were better. The kids were growing up in wonderful ways, having clubs, having, everything you could think of, things that I even thought were fairy tales, like indoor pools. I used to think that's an actual fairy tale when I saw a movie and someone had an indoor pool. I thought that was not real. Somebody made it up for the movie. So seeing that these things were real was shocking and nice at the same time, because at the same time I thought, well, why would any one person want to have everything while they understand that to get that they have to beat out everyone else and make sure that everyone else doesn't have it. So right away I knew that both of these systems were not working. For me, I always thought something was wrong with both of these systems. Then I went to India. And I was teaching in India for a few months, children in the slums of Nagpur. And so I lived in the slums with them so that they could walk to where I was or use their bicycles. I lived right in there. One of the things I saw was that they came before school and after school to get English lessons. And we had so much fun. One of the things I saw was that these kids, they had true heart. They were happy with having nothing. At the same time, I saw the invasion of the capitalist kind of way of thinking come in, talking to other adults that I met in India at the same time, who showed me that how things were changing. And then I saw they don't have a lot of energy. So I saw how all of these things were coming together, and it was horrifying to me to know that what these kids are going to lose in that kind of society changeover is the heart and that pureness that they had in their souls, being happy just being with other people, valuing the other human above everything else. And I saw that even in India, it's being changed over to a value of just money. And that's something that was really shocking to me. So all over the world, we have the same issue, that the money is infiltrating basically the souls and corrupting the souls of the people. But it's almost necessary to play that game, because otherwise you will be crushed. That's what we have to change. And with the creative society, that won't be the case anymore. We will be able to value life, assist each other, and assisting each other will be more valuable than making a profit. So from that perspective, it's really imperative to our survival on all kinds of levels, not just on the energy level, but really, if we don't switch over, the competition will be so harsh eventually that you really wouldn't want to be on this planet anymore. Even if you have things, that's one thing I don't understand, is how people who have a lot can be so oblivious to what's going to happen to them and their lifestyle if they don't get on board with this. Maybe you can tell me about that.
Yeah, wow. Like listening to you explaining all the stories, it's just so heartwarming, and it gives hope that, wow, people watch the conference and they really understand what it's about. Yeah, because like, for past decades, we've been living in the world where we're not given a good choice. We're given a choice between evil and more evil, and everyone's trying to pick which one is more evil. Is it communism? Is it socialism? Is it the capitalistic way of living? Is it Republicans? Is it Democrats? What should I give up? Healthcare, education, live in a debt slavery for the rest of their life? It is really a society where no good choice is given. So when people hear about creative society, they try to compare it to something they heard about and put a tag on it. Oh, it's like this. Oh, it's like that. Oh, I totally get it. And then it's only takes a little bit of time to actually explore it to see that, no, it's a complete opposite of the consumeristic system. And people who, especially here in the US, we see such a huge division of the society, and they're very polarized, and they are always given an image of enemy outside, when in fact the enemy is just the system in which we live in. We all as humans only have one enemy, and it's climate. And as you say, well, what are wealthy people hoping for? And one of the shocking facts, like preparing these conferences, we were taking interviews with multiple people, and specifically the construction companies. One of the questions we were asking, why are we not building the vertical farms when it's clearly a solution to the world hunger problem? That problem would not exist. And they say, well, we're construction companies. We don't care what to build. We get orders, we're going to build whatever it is. But there is super high demand to build underground bunkers for doomsday, but there is not much demand on vertical farms. So we have to go where the money is. And if the money is in doomsday bunkers, we're just going to build those. We don't really care, because what else can we do? We have to feed our families as well. So there is nonsense that people, again, divided in this selfish system of consumerism. Everyone is hoping to survive by itself, because especially, there is a trick. If you're a successful slave of the current format of the society, you think, oh, I made it by myself this far, I'm going to survive by myself. And what's crucial is to understand that no one will going to make it by themselves. It is the mission of majority of our population to make a choice. Do we want to survive together? Then we have to unify the scientific potential of our planet. And those, when I'm talking to my really good friends, and I'm like, just, do you realize that the best, smartest people on this planet working on technologies to destroy us as soon as possible? Do you realize it? And when it makes zero sense to continue keeping the best scientists in closed construction bureaus. Nobody knows their names. They're working on supersonic missiles and ways to deliver nuclear weapons on other continent as soon as possible. The very same people using the very same skills at the unified society, they could be working on providing free energy to all of the society, solving the hunger problem. And again, as we began, technologies is not an issue. It is the choice of the people that has to be made. And it's so amazing to hear you clearly understanding the things that, for such a long time, it was like, breaking our heads against the wall trying to explain certain things to people, and now we finally see that people getting it, especially after the most recent conference. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for all the examples, for sharing your life experience. It's really, really crucial to hear people just speak up like you do. And maybe you would like to wish something to our viewers. What would be your wishes?
Yes, so I would, first of all, I do want to thank you for having me on so that I can share some of my thoughts on this, because it's been weighing on my person since I was very young. And I am really happy to see that we are now at a point where not only do we have the technologies to make this actually happen, but that people all over the place are realizing I am worth more. I am worth living in a society where my life is being valued more than the output that I make in terms of money. That should be the least concern. So I want to let everyone know, if you are afraid of change, number one, that's a normal reaction. Number two, usually it comes from not knowing what's going to happen. That's when we're afraid. If we want to walk across a bridge over a cliff, the only reason we would be afraid to cross that bridge is if we don't know if it's going to hold us. So then a truck drives over, it holds, now we're able to go. So if you are afraid that, what is this creative society? What's it going to do? What about this? What about that? Just get more information. The information is out there. You can watch the forum. You can watch breakout forums. And then you can ask us, everyone here, I guess, what about my problem? And we want to hear that, because knowing that your problem is going to be solved and how it's going to be solved, and number one, that's going to make you hopeful. And we all know that hope is basically the only thing that can get us through tough times. And then number two, you also now know that there is something that you can do to make this better future for yourself, where your problem is being considered and solved, to make that actually happen. And the way you can do that is by joining us in the idea of creating a better society, and by letting other people know, hey, have you ever thought about how it would be like in a society where human life is actually being more valued than actual profits? Like, have you ever thought about what that could be like, what it could do for you, for your children, for your community, what it can do for me, for my children, for my community, what it can do for us together? We won't have to be afraid anymore of anything. And so if you have questions, if anything that we said was at all interesting to you, reach out to us, and we will let you know how to just help us spread the word. From there, and I'll let one of you explain that, obviously. From there, there is a step that will be taken on a political, actionable level that will then help put it in place. And I think it might be important for people to hear what your plan is, so that they know, that the action of just sharing about creative society will actually have a tangible outcome, and how important that outcome is going to be.
Yes, indeed. And thank you for bringing that up, because that's very important to, once again, first having a goal, where are we going, but understanding also the way we're going to use to get there. Currently, we have all a purpose, and many people sometimes are trying to find what are their purpose in life. You have a purpose right now to spread that information about this creative society, this new society that would make us live the way we all want. If you think about the way it has been created, we have just asked people. Nobody came up with those 8 foundations of the creative society by magic and just put it there in front of people. No, we have been asking people for 10 years in a social survey, what is the creative society? What is the society that people want to see? And that's what they came up with. That's what you came up with. So that's, first of all, a good thing to understand how the creative society has been built. So you understand it comes from us. It doesn't come from one person at the top who is asking people what they should do. So inform about that Creative Society is the step in which we are right now, and inform as many people as we can. So then the people will start actually voicing that needs of this society, to the point that politicians will not have any other option than actually implement that Creative Society, implement those foundations into their political agenda, to make sure that as many people will support them, because that's the new norm. That will be the new norm. We want the Creative Society, and we want the politician to be supporting us into building it. What I want to emphasize is that it's not about putting your responsibility on a politician in the future, understanding what Creative Society is, but then thinking that at some point a politician will come and just save the day. That is not the idea. Once again, you have a purpose of spreading that information to people, because without this, no politician will come and implement that Creative Society. When this is done, then we will have a strong platform on which all of those scientists that actually Tali has been mentioning will be really contributing to the good of our future and really make a difference. So that's a very good point to mention. There is a goal, yes. There is a description of our future, but there is also a road to follow. And everybody should be on that road together, on the same path. Tali, anything you wanted to add? Yes.
Oh, yes, Jonathan, thank you so much for explaining. And then one very important part is that foundation number 8, it actually gives people ability to self-govern. So it's not like we're hoping that, oh, somebody is going to magically come and do something for us. No, we as people, instead of delegating our power to somebody once every 4 years or whatever, we're actually taking responsibility. We say that this is what we want. We all vote for it on this online voting platform, which is guaranteed by foundation number 8. And then we elect managers who deliver on these missions. They say, oh, I'm ready to take this responsibility. I can take this office for the next certain amount of time and do this and that. And then we can clearly verify how good they're doing their job. And if not, we can replace them within the short period of time, not waste 4 years of our life complaining about the person. Oh, it was a wrong choice. It's never a good choice in the current format of the society. But we can build a system where there is no concept of power, because power is equally distributed among all people, and we all execute it constantly through, again, modern technologies. We could not possibly be doing this 20 years ago because technology wasn't there. But right now, we don't have to, give all our power to somebody who always fails to deliver. There was not a single time when we would do it and that thing would work as we expected. So why stepping on the same mistakes over and over again when we can so easily, just by voicing our demand, create this new system which beneficial for everyone, even for the politicians? Because guys, we talking to them constantly. There are so many good people among them who really want to make a difference, but they are simply have their hands tied to the current format of the society. They have obligations to their sponsors, they have obligation to their colleagues, and they cannot really make any difference even being there. So when we had this trip to Washington, D.C., speaking to the representatives of the House of Representatives, and they say, we are so down to support it. All we want to hear is demand from our people across the country and across the whole world, guys, because it's a very small planet we're living on right now, and we better live as one unified family on it. So thank you so much for joining us today. Sonja-Sophie, thank you so much for being with us, for sharing your amazing experience. It's really great to see how much it resonates with people. And especially with your rich background, living in multiple countries, seeing different systems of, society work, clearly it is very inspiring for those who, looking for the way out, to see that the way out is there. Thank you.
Thank you.
For everyone watching us, I would encourage people to join us on creativesociety.com, press and join us button, and share this information online. Post it on your social media with the hashtag Creative Society, and inform everyone in the most comfortable way for you to do this, because guys, we're only offering what's been working for us, but you can be creative. You can come up with your own solution. You can say, hey, I want to go to this podcast, I want to talk to that radio host, or come up with your ideas and let us know what is it that we're not using yet to inform people about this change on a global level, on a local level. It all starts locally. So feel free to email us on those emails you've seen on the bottom of the screen, and let's build a better world together. Thank you so much, and see you.